Well, I'm here with Chris Brammer and Katie Kring,
Hello.
and I'm so excited, guys, about this event that we're going to have July 20th, and I just want to talk about what we're going to be doing that night. So give us a description of the evening first, Chris, and we'll talk more specifically about what it is.
Right. Okay. So we being Springfield Chamber Chorus, are just incredibly excited that we've been invited to be a part of this conference. Selfishly, we're excited that the conference is in Springfield, and I think that it's going to be a fantastic week. We are providing some music on the first night of this conference, but not necessarily a traditional concert. Instead, we're going to premiere a new work by our resident composer, Katie Kring, and it's a work that came out of the homeless situation here in Springfield. Katie works very closely with several organizations in town that do all they can to help our homeless friends in one way or another. Katie's had an amazing relationship with several of those homeless friends, and through that relationship was able to interview and pull texts from these interviews and then set those texts to music. Now, at the same time, over the past couple of years, a documentary film crew has been following the Springfield Street Choir, which is a subsidiary of Springfield Chamber Chorus, and Katie directs that choir. And they have put together a documentary about that choir, which of course features heavily the homeless population here in Springfield. And so on the first night, on the 20th, that Tuesday evening, we're going to feature Katie's new pieces, a song cycle called Forgotten Voices, followed by a showing of this excellent documentary about the street choir and the homeless situation here in Springfield.
Oh, that sounds incredible.
Really cool.
Katie, tell us more about this Forgotten Voices, this piece. What inspired you to write it? Obviously, you direct the choir.
So what actually the choir came out of this project. So this is all ACDA's fault. So ACDA a couple of years ago had some grant application for it was for like women and minorities, sort of underrepresented composers, to apply for this grant. It would be a commission, and you'd write something, and they'd give you like $1,500 or something. And so I sat down with Chris, and you had to have like a choir that you were partnered with for this. So I sat down with Chris, and we were like, what could we do? And one of the things on the application is like, how will this piece of music impact the community? And it really made me think, because I was like, how does any piece of choral music impact the community, really? Like, and so we sort of started reverse engineering from there. Like, well, what could you do as a piece of choral music that would actually impact the community? And so then we came up with this idea of Forgotten Voices. And I was sort of loosely affiliated with homeless advocacy at that time. I was working with a group, but mostly I was just, like giving them old bread, and I wasn't doing like street outreach and things like that. And so I applied for that grant, and then I went to the National ACDA conference, and I saw the Dallas Street Choir, and I went to talk to Jonathan Pallant, and I was like, hey, I'm working on this thing, and he was like, hey, cool, Street Choir. And so then I came back from that conference, and then I went to our exec team, and I was like, hi, guess what we're doing? We're starting a street choir.
Exactly how it sounded, actually.
Very assertive.
Very matter of fact.
Yeah,
like
it was semi-optional. And so then we started street choir, and I didn't get the ACDA grant. That went to somebody else, but I was like, I'm doing it anyway, which is sort of kind of how all of this has gone. And so then once we were doing street choir, I was then working weekly and daily with this amazing group of people in the homeless community. And really, I had a couple homeless friends previous to that, but now I had a whole bunch of homeless friends, and people who I care very deeply about and know pretty well, and have relationships with. And so we scheduled this for a concert that was going to be in like April-ish of 2020.
Of course.
And the plan was going to be, in fact, that we were going to like start the street choir in January of 2020, and then our first performance would be with, in conjunction with this Forgotten Voices cycle. However, we started raising money for the street choir in September, and we had all the money we possibly needed by about 3 weeks in. So we started October 1st. And so, which is great in hindsight, because that gave us, a good 6 months of street choir before COVID put a major hitch in our get along.
Yeah.
And by January we were playing the Galois at the Mystery Hour, and we were doing all kinds of stuff. So anyway, so in about January, February of 2020, then I was like, well, I should probably write this thing. And so I got texts in a couple of ways. One of the pieces came about because at Street Choir we give them a piece of paper, and they put their name and their information on it, and that's how they get paid. And so I had them flip that over and write I am, and then fill in anything they wanted.
Okay.
And so one piece is just responses from that.
Oh, that's incredible.
Another one, I went out, or two of them, I went out one night. It was really cold. It was like snowing, but I don't think the shelters were open.
It wasn't cold enough.
Right. Because if it's like 33, the shelters don't open. If it's 32, for more than 4 hours, the shelters open. Correct. Man. That's the correct response.
I know that happened.
Don't get me started.
It will blow your mind. Yeah.
And if it's 33 and raining, too bad. Freeze to death. So I was out talking to people. We were handing out like hot cocoa and stuff, trying to keep people kind of warm when there was nowhere to go. And so I was interviewing people out on the street while everyone's smoking, because they all smoke. And so one of them was just a conversation with my friend Paul, who's really articulate and has a lot to say. And so that piece is called Without the Struggle, and talking about his experience on the streets. And I will say, 2 months after that, Paul got clean, and he's been clean for a year and a half.
That's
and he's
wonderful.
like living with his mom now, and he's doing pretty well. So that's kind of awesome. And then I went out to, and then Paul also, some of his words are in this other place called Someplace to Come To. And then also there's two people who were like, they were both in this girl's car because she was living in her car. And so it was her and her boyfriend. And then they are both super smart, articulate people also, and had made some other comments. And so provided all those texts. And so, like with Someplace to Come To, and with Without the Struggle, I mean, they are, what I have done to the texts is structural, but almost, I think I wrote like one line to kind of bring a thought together and, get to a rhyme and get to an end of a stanza. But otherwise, it is as verbatim as one could possibly make these texts.
What an incredible marriage of a community, of music, and of just working for people. You want to talk about choral music changing the world?
That's the thought. And then there's two other pieces, and they're both by my friend Coco, who was my first homeless friend. And we've been friends for a long time now. And one of them was actually a Facebook status that they'd put up in about February of last year while I was working on this. And I had asked them to write me a couple pieces, and they had written 1 miles to go. I said, write me a thing. And within about 45 minutes, I had this just shockingly amazing text. Just in my lap, perfect, have not changed a word. The rhymes, the scan, the literary references, it's just like, bam, right there. Like,
pretty cool.
Yeah, brilliant human being. But then this Facebook status, they'd posted, last night the shelters weren't open, and it was so cold I was afraid to go to sleep because I didn't think I would wake up. What is the word for wanting to go home and having no home? So that's one of the pieces, which...
Well, I certainly can't wait to be a part of this emotional journey. This in a lot of ways is going to be, for some of our members, the very first choral concert that they've attended in some 16, 18 months.
Bring your tissues.
Bring your tissues. But I'll also say this, that it is, yes, an emotional journey, but the emotions aren't always what you expect them to be. Mm-hmm. And I think that's one of the most exciting things about the cycle itself, but about the texts that were chosen, because the journey is very emotional, but it's not all dark. Mm-mm. And there's a lot of unexpected joy and unexpected happiness that these folks who just, in our eyes, must be miserable, but they don't see that way. They find happiness and they find joy and they find moments of just really unique togetherness, and that's well spoken by them and then well set by Katie. The music itself is incredibly accessible, which is one of the things that I like the most about this cycle. It's beautiful, it's varied in terms of the way the music is set, but it's accessible. And I think that especially directors that get a chance to come and hear this are going to find that if this is something that they wanted to use in their community, not only are they going to get a lot out of it as an audience member, but because it is so accessible, they would very easily have the chance to get a lot out of it as a director as well, and bringing this one of the pieces or the cycle itself to their students and beginning a conversation with them that is a deeper, more meaningful conversation about things that maybe we don't always get a chance to talk about in the choir classroom.
Well, this is phenomenal. I can't wait for July 20th.
Yeah, we're excited.
7 o'clock, the concert's going to start, followed by the documentary. Hope everybody can make it out. Thanks again for sharing about this work, and I can't wait for you to share the music with us in person.
We're super excited. Can't wait to be there. Very thrilled to be asked and to be back at the conference. Just can't wait.